Hello, thank you for watching this video and using Parthia. My name is David, and I'm Parthia's primary developer. I've just completed an update to Parthia to add automation to it, or in other words, codeless scripting. I wanted to make this video to cover this update and how to use it. First, let's find the easiest way to change settings within Parthia. To do this, the best way to do it is to run the Parthia command. You can see here when the Parthia command runs, it lists a number of commands to change the actual Parthia settings themselves. Any item that's highlighted in blue within Parthia can be clicked. In this case, since we're covering the Parthia automation update, we're going to actually go here and click that. When I click it, it's going to run the automation help. And one of the things I would like to point out is that the Eternal City, they do have rules on scripting or automation, and you are not allowed to fully automate. So in other words, you're not allowed to run automation and then stand up and walk away from your computer. Generally speaking, they always want you to be physically in front of your device, actually playing the game or watching it. They do not seem to care if you're doing forms of automation, as long as you're directly in front of it and interacting with the actual game itself. But however, failure to do this, to stay in front of your computer, can result in your account being suspended. And in some rare instances where you repeat a large number of times, you can also get your account permanently banned. Because of this, Parthia's primarily being the automation system has been primarily developed to replace repetitive tasks, especially in the non-combative systems. So now that we've covered some of the general rules that the Eternal City or tech puts on the actual plane system, I just wanted to cover the Parthia automation system. This is done by creating automation groups. Today I'm going to talk briefly about how to view an automation group, what they are, how to run an automation group. Then I will move on how to create automation groups, and also we will cover how to delete automation groups. Automation groups can be viewed by running or clicking, in this case, the command Parthia automation group. Here you're going to actually see a list of, in this case, the one automation group I have now. And every automation group is actually going to have a number of group positions. When we want to be able to see a group position, we can actually click this show link. However, alternatively, if you instead wanted to be able to run the command manually, when you highlight this group, you'll actually be able to see a toolbox showing you the command that needs to be run. Right now on this recording, you should not be able to see the toolbox or the highlighted group, but just to type it out, it's actually going to wind up being Parthia automation groups, and in this case, attack rotation, because that's the actual name of the automation group that we're trying to show. And you can see there, if I press enter, it simply shows me the same group again. Now these group positions within an automation group, they determine the order a command is run within that automation group. So each group position has three items in it. One, it has the command that's going to be called or run. And in this case, you can see here the command is SLT. That's actually going to be a tech or the Eternal City macro command that I have run or created. And then nextly, we have when the next group is actually going to be called. There's two different ways to do this. You can actually do it by number of seconds, or in the case of, you can see here that the next command will be called when you wind up seeing the "you are no longer busy" message. And then the last item in a group position is if this command should repeat itself on a failure. Most combat commands, you'll want this to be false. Most of the time, for non-combat commands, you'll want it to be true because typically you'll want them to repeat until they're successful. Automation is done in the order of the group position. Here you can see this group has multiple positions. When automation is started, this group will start with the lowest group position and run to the highest. In this case, it has only 2, so it's going to start at 1, and then it's going to simply move on to the 2. Now we're going to cover how to actually start an automation task. And to do this, we're first going to have to approach the dummy. We're going to also make certain that it's the target for our macro commands. And then now I'm actually going to go through and I'm going to use the Parthia help system to actually help us out with running the start of this automation task. There's 2 ways to do this, and I'm going to go just a brief step back here. And within the automations, I'm going to actually go back to that Parthia automations groups, and I'm simply just going to click here. And when I click that, this is going to run the automation forever. It's going to go through those group positions over and over and over, and it will absolutely never stop. So when I want to stop, I have to actually just run the stop command. Now let's start an automation using a command. I could type it manually, however, I'm going to use the help system a different way now. So I'm going to go here, run the Parthia, automation, and this time I'm going to go to the help system to show you how to help start a command. You can see here the start command shows a full help on how to start an automation task. Also, you will see that in the command window is automatically filled in the template of a command. And that's here at the bottom. It's gone through and done that for us. If I wanted to, I could replace the information in the template with my own and press enter to run it. Here we want to run the attack rotation group again. However, this time we want it to repeat a single time. So something to point out here, and that matches that here. And we're going to type in the attack rotation group, and we want it to run a single time. So when I go through there and press enter, it's going to start that attack rotation group that we had seen previously. This time, it's going to only loop through those 2 attacks that we have within the attack rotation group a single time. That's because we specified a 1 here. If I specified a 0 there, it's actually going to run it an infinite number of times, and that's exactly what happens when you use the help system to start it. You are literally doing the exact same as running this command with the 0 there at the end. So again, we want to stop it. So I'm just going to go ahead and run the stop command. Now that we have an idea how to view and run an automation group, let's manage an automation group. Again, to do this, we're going to go right straight back to the Parthia help system just by typing Parthia. And we're going to go automation. And we're going to go automation groups. First, we're going to cover how to remove a single group position within an automation group. We can do this by clicking show and then the group name. And it's going to go ahead again and show all of the positions within this group. I can then choose a group I want to remove. And just as before, when I hover my mouse over this, it will show a tooltip of an of the command you would want to run to do this. You won't be able to see it on the video, but you will be able to see it in real life. However, I want to just simply click this. I don't want to run the command, so I'm just going to simply click it to remove it. And then you can see here that it's saying position 2 was removed from the group tack rotation. One thing I'm going to point out is if you did this accidentally, you can undo what you have just done by running Parthia load. However, if you do that, all the changes you have made since the last time you've saved will be lost. And then lastly, if this change here, it actually has not been saved yet. So, and it won't be saved until I click or run the command Parthia save all. All right, now let's go ahead and let's verify that that actual group position was removed. And to do that, I can actually click the literal exact same link that I had used before. Parthia automation groups, Parthia show attack rotation there. And then we can see here now there's only just the one singular group rotation and this group. I'm going to point out something that will not be obvious. Automation group positions, they do not have to be perfectly sequential. By this, I mean if you run or have 5 commands in an automation group, they do not have to go straight from positions 1 through 5. For example, you can feel free to remove group position 3 and leave all the other positions in the group, and all 4 of those other group positions will work perfectly fine. They won't have any kind of issues or errors, so, but they will continue to go in order. Just in this case, they would go 1, 2, 4, 5, because that third group position would be gone. Now let's learn how to remove an entire automation group. To do this, we could click the links that are right straight there above, but let's go back through just for repetition's sake. Go ahead and run the Parthia command, Parthia automation groups, and we can see here this red icon is to remove this automation group. Just as before with removing a group position, the same is true, that you can undo it by clicking or running Parthia load, and your changes will not survive or restart until you click Parthia save all. I'm going to click Parthia save all so I know that these changes will survive or restart. All right, finally, let's go through on how to create an automation group and then group positions within it. Before I do just want to briefly explain that in Tech or the Eternal City, they do have a macro system that will couple very, very well with the Parthia automation system. If you do not already know about it, I'm going to very briefly cover it. But in order to use the macro system within Tech, it's just the @macro command. And in this case, I'm just going to list some of the macro commands that my primary character Laurentius uses. And then you'll see here I have some commands. Let's say just for example, what is a terribly simple one? Chop. Chop target. What that's going to do is that's literally going to run the command chop, and then it's going to use the Tech or the Eternal City's target system to as the target. And to run it, in this case, it looks like I've determined CHT should be mapped to chop target. So in Parthia automation, if I was specifying the command to chop a target, I would run CHT. And I'm going to exit the macro system. And then there, how it showed target, in order to change my target, I have to say target and then the name of what I want the target to actually be. Okay, and then going back to Parthia's automation, let's again use the help system to get us to the command that we're going to do, because for certain I am not going to bother with memorizing any kind of command formats. So in this case, it's going to Parthia automation update. And here it will provide you a full reference of how to update a command. But if we just look here, we can see the basic format of this command. And as you'll notice by that equals, it actually is your standard muck command format that I wound up choosing to use. So you'll see here that the start of it is Parthia automation. It could also, however, be /audio. These two map to the exact same thing. And the auto is just simply a shorthand for Parthia automation. The next item is the group name. So previous we had that attack rotation group, and we're going to actually, when we're covering this, we're just going to remake a portion of that group. And then one thing to mention is that it is case sensitive. So you're going to want to make certain that when you call or try to run this attack rotation group in the future, that you do use the case sensitivity you had previously. Now the position number is the position of the command you're about to add. Since this is the first command we want to put in this attack or automation group, I'm just going to leave this at 1 because that'll put it in the position 1 group. And then the next portion of this command is the command you actually want to run. And I'm going to simply replace this template. And I apologize, I didn't mention this, but when you actually click Parthia automation update or run that command, it actually will automatically fill in with that template that we had actually had previous. So now that we have the command selected, let's use that macro that we had seen before. It was only CHT that mapped back to chop target. And then next we have the seconds value, which is in here. And as a reminder, this can be one of two items. It can be the number of seconds that you want the next command to run. Alternatively, if it's 0, it's actually going to wait for the "you are no longer busy" message to run the next command. And then the last item in the Parthia automation update command is if you want this command to repeat on failure. Most attack commands, you will not want them to repeat on failure. And a 0 is do not repeat on failure. A 1 would be to repeat the command if it fails. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to press enter. And you can see here that this group did not previously exist because we deleted it, and that it created it now. And then here it's going to show you the update that we made to the group. Your update is in position 1. We're running the command CHT, which maps to chop target in the macro system. Since it's seconds to wait is 0, we know that it's going to run the next command when you see the "you are no longer busy" message. And then also we know this command will not repeat when it fails. So since this all looks good, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click save. All right, let's add another command to the attack rotation group. I am not about to do the command from scratch again, and you'll see that by default in Mudlet, when you press enter on a command, and I apologize, Mudlet is the platform that Parthia uses or is built off of. But in Mudlet, when you click enter on a command, it will actually then re-show that command and highlight the entire command for you, so that way if you're going to type another one, it simply replaces it. However, this is incredibly similar to the command that we're about to need to run again. So we're actually going to unhighlight it so we don't replace everything, and we're going to replace exactly what we want. So we know that the first item here is the group name. That's going to remain the same. Now the position number is the second item, and we need to change that because we need this to be in the second position or have it be the second command that we run in this automation group. Next, we have the actual command we want to run. And in this case, I happen to know that SLT is going to map to slash target in my macro system. So I'm going to simply use that because it's the easiest item to do. And then, just as before, seconds are not what we want to use in this particular instance. We actually just want the next command to run when the system sees the "you are no longer busy" message. And we do not need the command to repeat on a failure. So the last item is simply a 0 for false. No, we don't need it to repeat on a failure. So now when I press enter, scroll back down, you'll be able to see, just as before, that my automation group has been updated. And here's the updates we've made. It's in position 2. It added command SLT. It is going to wait for the "you are no longer busy" rather than a number of seconds, and it will not repeat on failure. Great, so I'm going to go ahead, click to save. And now I want to actually see the automation group we just made. So let's run Parthia, Parthia automation, Parthia groups, and if we click show, we can actually see here's the automation group that we just made. So let's go ahead and, if I'm not already, approach the dummy and let's run that automation group. Even though it's right there, let's just do it from the beginning where we click Parthia, Parthia automation, Parthia automation groups, and let's just start the attack rotation. So and again, if we click into this through the help system, it's going to repeat the automation an infinite number of times. So I'm just going to click or run the command stop so that it's no longer running the automation. Now, if you wanted to update a command, there's no need to remove it previous to updating it. So for example, let's actually go back to Parthia automation. Let's go Parthia automation update, and let's go and replace this with attack rotation again. Let's say we want to replace the group position 2, and before it was slash target, but let's actually replace it with SMT, which, if I remember right, in my macro system, replaces it with smash target. Just as before, the number of seconds I want to be 0, so that the next command runs when the "you are no longer busy" message is seen, and then I do not want it to repeat on failure, so I want to leave that last value as 0. Press enter. It looks like it made the changes. I'm going to click save. I'm going to make certain to actually view my automation group to make certain that we can see here the second spot was simply replaced. And then if we go through and rerun it, we can see our character chop the target and then actually use the smash. I'm going to stop so that we can stop the automation. Alright, now there is another thing that I would like to cover, and that's actually going to be more along the lines with the non-combat automation. So I'm going to pause this now and change where my character is to cover tasks you would normally do with a non-combat automation group. Alright, and now we can see here that Laurentius is back at the hospice and in front of a worker that has something wrong with him. He's got an arm broken from apparently hauling some bricks. Now, Lon won't be able to actually help him with his broken arm, but that's not important for the purposes of what we need to do here. I don't actually get a chance to play too terribly often, but I absolutely cannot stand this top bar. And I'm actually, right now, I right click it you won't be able to see this window, but if I right click, you'll be able to see two options, and one of them is a checkbox by main toolbar. I'm going to click that to get rid of that top toolbar there because I simply do not need it. I use keyboard keys to get to those items. All right, now we can see here that the worker is pointing to his left arm. Normally, you'd want to use a macro to use the healing system, just as before, where you use target. In this case, you type in left arm and to the macro system, or as the target, and then the macro system would point that to the target. However, I actually legitimately do not have that in Laurentius, which is good because it actually helps us here in this situation type out full command, not using any kind of macros. So to be able to do that, because we're not going to memorize any of the commands, let's type in Parthia, click Parthia Automation, then we want to click Parthia Automation Update. When we want it, the full reference is up there, but let's call this heal left arm, I think it was. Yes. Heal left arm. And then that's going to be the group name. Matches there. The group position, 1 is perfectly fine because we want this to be the first item in the group position group. And then in the command section, we want to type in the command we want to run. And if I'm remembering the Eternal City commands correctly, diagnose left arm is the diagnose command. And just as with those other commands, we want the next command to run when we see the "you are no longer busy" message. However, unlike the other commands, and that's the seconds to run. So it's 0 means we wait until we see the "you are no longer busy" message. And just as with the other commands, or unlike the other commands, we want this to repeat when it fails. We want it to go until it finally succeeds. When it does, it will then go on to the next item in the automation group. So if I click enter, since this group did not exist, it's going to create it now. And then there's the changes that we've actually just made. All right, now we're actually going to make the next item. So just as before, we want to keep the group name. We want it to match. However, the position number, it's going to be the next position. However, I want to make a command that does not actually have a "you are no longer busy" message when it's done. So I'm actually just going to click the look command. It's not actually useful for healing anyone, but I'm just going to click look. And then and that's the command field. And then the number of seconds field, I'm actually going to let's put 2. So the next command after the look command will be called 2 seconds later. And with this guy, for the repeat on failure, if a command doesn't have a success chance, you always want it to not repeat on failure, because what would happen is it would never ever succeed because there's no success chance to it. So you would actually just repeat that exact same command over and over and over again. So we win those cases. For commands that have no success chance, we want repeat on failure to be 0. If we scroll down, we can see that the group position 2 was actually made with the look command. Alright, now the next command in this group, we're going to want to bandage, then unbandage. So here, for the group name, we want it to be the same. That's this, which matches to the group name. And then for the position, we want it to be 1 higher, so that position number needs to be 3. And the command is going to be Let me see if I can remember this. Bandage. I think it was left arm. What I'm going to do with bandage. Now, one thing to note here, there's a resource getting used. Um, you could do something previous to make certain that resource is ready for you. You could even, in the 3 spot, you could do something like get bandage from bandages. Or you could just simply have the bandages ready for your character. In this case, I just simply have the bandages ready. I'm not doing a command to prepare them beforehand. So the command that we're going to run is bandaged left arm with bandage. And that is going to be the command section. So the seconds to wait, we're going to want it to be 0 because we want it the next command to run when we see the "you are no longer busy" message. And then, just as with the first command, the diagnose command, we want it to repeat when it fails, because you cannot unbandage something if there's not a bandage on it. So I'm going to go ahead, press enter, scroll down, make certain, and it did, made everything the way we wanted. So now we're going to add just that last item. We're going to increase that group position, and since we want to remove the bandage, I'm going to erase this command, and I believe it is cut bandage from, it was left arm, and this field here, again, is going to be the seconds to wait before running the next command, and when it's 0, it will run when we see the "you are no longer busy" message. And then we want this command to repeat on a failure. So click enter. We've got all these commands made. I'm going to click save so that I made certain my changes are going to save or restart. And before I try to run this, I actually want to view my group. So I'm going to click show. And I showed the wrong group. So I'm going to click show heal left arm. So we have here all the commands that we just created. So we're going to look. Because I didn't put it in the automation group, I'm going to click 10 worker. So we'll take a few moments. And while it's doing that, let's actually go back to the automation group. So now we know we're no longer busy, so we can send the command. Let's click start that. And then in this case, right away, we actually successfully ran this. So when it's no longer busy, it's going to run the look command. And then after 2 seconds, it's going to run the bandage command. And by some small chance, I've managed to succeed on this as well. And then lastly, it's going to run the remove command. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to let the loop run again, because since we clicked it, it's going to run infinitely. And I'm going to actually wait, because what I want to example here is how the same command will run again when a failure occurs. So a few seconds here, we're going to actually wind up seeing the look command, a 2-second delay, and we're going to see the bandage command, and then when you're no longer busy, it's going to remove the bandage. Now we've actually failed. So what we're going to see happen is that you run it again. However, this time it succeeded. So what's going to happen is it's actually just going to run straight on to the diagnose. Now the diagnose didn't succeed this time. So what it's going to do, since we have repeat on failure set to true or that 1, once you are no longer busy, it's going to repeat it over. And it will repeat it over and over, and it will not move on to that next command until this one has been successful. Alright, I'm going to stop the automation, and now what I'm going to do is I have not covered Um, Running an automation a single time or a set number of times. I do not believe I've covered that. So I'm going to go ahead and run the Parthia command. I'm going to run Parthia automation, and then let's take one more peek. We're going to show here the healing group we just made, but we want to start an automation. We're going to want to start it manually without clicking a button. So I'm going to click start, and actually, you know what? Let's do this. To clean things up, let's clear the display because I want to clear it up a little bit. Automation, click Parthia automation start. Don't forget that I could also type that command. So it's going to show me the Parthia automation start help system. And you can see here it replaced my command with a template of a command. And up here it explains the template. It's just the group name, which I think was heal left arm. I am honestly going from memory. And then the number of times I want it to repeat. If I put 0 in this field, it will repeat this an infinite number of times. And previously, when we actually clicked the group to start it within the group, the start um, link within the group, that is actually exactly what happens. Is it runs literally this command with the 0 at the end to repeat it an infinite number of times. So let's say here I want this to repeat a singular number of times. I just want this group to run one time from the beginning of this automation group to the end of it. I just want it to run one time and then just simply be finished. So since that first one completed successfully, it's the one that actually takes an actual amount of time. I'm actually going to let it go through and actually run. So this should be done within about the next 30 to 40 seconds. See here how it repeated it when it failed, because we had previously, when we created it, we set that repeat on failure. Then now it moved on to removing the bandage. You can actually even see here how it's this is the command that you're running. And then look, you can see here nothing else is happening. It looks like everything is done, everything is finished. So your automation is done. And that is because we told it to only run a single time. All right, that is the absolute basics of the automation system, automation groups, and automation group currently begin to use this or the Parthia's automation. And they have other requests. If you have any kind of requests, please let me know. I'd be happy to help you out. Some of the obvious ones would wind up being standing up automatically if your character falls down. Maybe picking up your weapon if the weapon falls. And then maybe rather than waiting for a number of seconds or that you are no longer busy, maybe a situation where you could actually type a sequence of characters to look for within the game before that next command continues. So by that, maybe what I would wind up needing is if we go to Parthia automation, let's say Parthia update, and what that would be is instead of the seconds or that 0 for the you are no longer busy, uh, maybe we would want to pick something like you enter or arrive for the when you arrive in a new room, maybe something specifically to happen with this automation group. That certainly is not a possibility right now. I'm simply speaking of things that we could possibly update in the future. At this time, I made certain that the automation group, I made this automation group because I found training non-combat skills actually literally unenjoyable. I did not find them fun. So I literally wanted something so that I could have it run, have me watch it occur, and it was not requiring me to give myself carpal tunnel to go through and train a non-combat skill set. While just making a script to do this would have been a whole lot easier for me than creating an entire automation system, I did want to make certain that I had something in place for other people to use. Thank you very much for viewing this today. Thank you for using Parthia. Be sure to report any bugs that you wind up seeing with Parthia. You can do that on our Discord channel. Another way to do it is if we actually type in Parthia, there's a report here. It actually goes through and explains to you how to report something. And if on the report, if you wanted to go through these steps, you could also wind up requesting something there as well. But those are all of the items that I wanted to cover for the automation system. So thank you again for watching, and have a good day.